Hello, good afternoon. So in the last few weeks of the class, we'll be going back to Russell's notion of acquaintance in one way or another. And I want to begin today by looking back at where we've got to with the notion of truth in an account of meaning, and then look at main topic today and next time, multiple object tracking, and experiments that Pelican, the psychologist Zenon Pelican, has done on multiple object tracking, and say why they might be relevant to anything we're doing. And I'll try and make out the case that I think Pelican is going for, that what he calls visual indexes, which are elements of the visual system in the brain, might be the basis of reference in ordinary English. So let me begin by just where we've got to. I was saying last time, we could maybe acknowledge Wittgenstein's point that use is more basic than knowledge of truth conditions, that the basic thing is just what you do with your use of a language, that the pattern of use is more basic than knowing anything about what signs refer to. But you could still say that in order to have a use of a sign that you can make any sense of, you must be able to give an account of what you're up to in your use of the sign. Someone said a few classes ago, your objectives in using the sign. You have to have some picture in your mind of what makes a statement involving the sign true or false. So with Tonk, there's a use for the sign, all right. The use can be perfectly well described, but it's very difficult to make intelligible what you think you're up to when you're using the sign. You can't have any truth table for it. You can't make any sense of what is going on there. So you could say, yeah, using the sign is a more basic thing, but you've still got to be able to say what it takes for uses of those signs and sentences to be true or false. So we have to be able to make sense of what it is to be going right or wrong when you're using the sign, and we don't want to have to say it's just agreeing with everyone else that makes your use of a sentence true or false. And we also want to be able to say some ways of using signs are systematically wrong. Tonk is like that. Maybe uses of offensive language are like that. Maybe there are other cases still. The kind of truth theory that we were looking at last time, when you say stating what has to be the case for the signs of a language, for sentences of a language to be true or false, a truth theory takes all the individual signs of the language, the basic vocabulary of the language, and gives you an axiom for each of them. It gives you a sentence for each sign. It states what that sign refers to, or what it takes for that sign to apply to an object, or something like that. And then you get all these SP pairings. S is true if and only if P, for every sentence of your language from that basic set of axioms. Davidson's take was, when you're giving this kind of theory, so suppose you think, well, we need this kind of statement of truth conditions to make it intelligible to ourselves what we're up to when we're using language, what our objectives are when we're using language. Then Davidson's line was, all the theory has to do is crank out all the true statements of the form S is true if and only if P. So if you get two theories that both crank out those same theorems, then there's no real difference between them. It doesn't make any sense to wonder if one's right or one's wrong. So if you had a theory that says Raleigh refers to the place 1 mile west of Raleigh, and Isaac refers to the place 1 mile west of Isaac, and the predicate smokes applies to X if the person 1 mile east of place X smokes, and fishes applies to a place X if the person 1 mile east of X fishes, well, that's going to give you the same SP pairings as the theory that says Raleigh refers to Raleigh, Isaac refers to Isaac, and smokes applies to X if X smokes, fishes applies to X if X fishes. They'll both give you theorems like that. So according to Davison, there's no difference between this kind of theory that says Raleigh refers to the place 1 mile west of Raleigh, and a theory that says Raleigh refers to Raleigh. That was what we got to last time. And last time the note we ended on was, that can't be right. We do give meanings to the signs of our language a word at a time. You learn a word like Raleigh by being introduced to Raleigh, by being told, here's Raleigh, and not by encountering the place 1 mile west of Raleigh. There's something about the way that perception comes into your learning of individual words. You learn names, signs for particular objects, by seeing those objects, by encountering those objects. That's the most basic case. You learn predicates by seeing objects that they apply to. So what you really need is what we haven't really addressed so far, an account of how perception might work in your learning individual words. How perception might play a role in letting you learn what individual words stand for, or how sentences containing them are true or false. We haven't really looked at that yet. That's what I think we've got to. We're going to get knowledge of truth conditions derived from knowledge of the references of the signs. That's going to give us our knowledge of what we're about, what our objectives are, what we're doing in our use of language. Okay, so that's quite fast. If you weren't, well, by my standards, that's quite fast. This is your chance to pause if you're not completely abreast with absolutely everything so far. Yeah. Can I go back a slide? Yeah, I can do that. Okay. Any advance on one slide? So where we got to is basically close to where we started out, namely looking for some statement as to what it takes to know for a sign to know that a sign refers to a particular object. That's really what we're looking for at this point. Yeah. We have, of course, a much deeper understanding of the question, but it's actually the same question. We do, I promise you, have a much deeper understanding of the question, but it is actually the same question we started out with. Yeah. Okay. So Pelican, back in the late 90s, did a suite of experiments, a whole set of experiments that continue to this day on what he calls multiple object tracking. So what goes on in multiple object tracking is quite easy to state. In multiple object tracking, you're shown a screen containing between 12 and 20, this is the basic cases, it all gets quite complicated later on, but you're shown a screen that contains a whole bunch of simple, identical objects. Some of them flash, and you're told the ones that flash, they're yours. Keep tabs on them. And then they all start to move around in unpredictable ways. At the end of the thing, one of them flashes, and you're asked, was that one of yours? So here's the start, right? So you got all these targets on the screen in front of you. 4 of them flash, and then they all start to move around. One of them flashes, and you're asked, was that one of yours? Okay, I may as well admit at this point, I have looked at about 1 million of these demonstrations, and I can never do them at all. So I'm not actually a great help to you in actually giving you hints and tips as to how to do this. But let me see if I can. This is a demo from Pelican's website. If you Google Pelican multiple object tracking, you can find about 1 million of these demos online. Okay, are you all set? 4 of them will flash. They're yours. I say right at the start, I can't do this at all, so I'm not even going to try this one. I won't be able to help you at the end by telling you whether you're right, whether you succeeded. So it's kind of frustrating from that point of view. But with all those provisos in mind, okay, here we go. Here we go. Okay, as I said, can you put your hand up if you thought you had managed to do that pretty well? Wow. This demo doesn't have end flashing. This is his only demo of the basic case, and it doesn't do the end flashing. So I'm sorry. If I had the skills, I would manipulate it myself, but I don't. In fact, I wouldn't even know which one was. Yes, okay. Was this one one of yours? Wow. Was this one of yours? Was this one? This one? What about this one? Jesus, that's impressive. I'm suitably thunderstruck. Okay, right. Wait, one of you guys should take over at this point. And I promise you I never had the slightest idea. Okay. Okay. Right. Okay, there are a number of points to bear in mind here. This is a very abstract kind of demonstration, right? But it is clearly a real-world skill. This, I mean, I'm told that when you do this with football players, I mean, people whose day job is playing football, they do really well at it. Right? And you can see why, if you're in the habit of keeping tabs of some particular fast-moving objects in a whole array, this is going to be easier. Or if you think about a mother of 3 on a shopping expedition with 3 children and a small dog, and keeping tabs of them, you know what I mean? You can see that in just a million real-world situations, this is going to be important. It's not just a skill that's exercised on abstract dots, right? You need this in everyday life if you're going to keep tabs of your friends and your enemies and so on. Okay, that's one basic point. Another is, think about, you guys did that pretty well, right? Probably slightly better than most of the population, but people are actually, I'm told, generally pretty good at this. Not perfect, but much better than chance. Yeah. So how are you doing it? How did you manage that? In order to do that, you had to tag each of these 4 right at the start. Right? You had to get them tagged somewhere or other, and then at the end, say whether that was the same one. Now, did you do it by saying, oh, that's the red one, that's the square one? I mean, none of these qualitative properties of the thing are really any good, right? Because they're all exactly the same, right? So you did not do it by forming a qualitative description of the thing and saying that's the one I'm trying to keep tabs on. So if you remember Frege on sense, you had a singular term there. You had 4 singular terms tagging each of those 4 objects. And in Frege's terms, there had to be some sense, some way you were being given the thing. But what was your way of being given the object? It wasn't by getting a description of it, because they're all actually very similar. There's no description that really differentiates them one from another. You might say, well, the description I had in mind was the one at this place or the one at that place. But if you remember how fast that went, you couldn't possibly have been doing it by explicitly framing the description at each point. The one at this place, the one at this place, now to that place, now to that place, now to that place. Right? To cycle backwards and forwards between the 4 of them, framing all these descriptions. Right? I mean, you guys are clearly better than me, but you're not that good. Right? You did not do it. I don't believe you did it by doing that. Right? You can't do it by just framing fresh descriptions the whole time. So there was some kind of tagging you did there that was more primitive than any descriptive identification of the object. There was some kind of primitive tag you had that was locking onto the object without a Fregean sense. Yeah? So yeah, okay, so that's just going over what the result is that people can do it for up to about 5 targets. It kind of peters out around 5. Now, that's the first main point. When you're keeping track of your target, you're not doing it by having a description of your target. Yep.
Can we go back to what you were just saying about we don't continually change our descriptions?
Right.
That's looking like widespread. In a sense, like when I was going around, I would have the 3 on top, 1 on the bottom. I would think about like the 3 on top, 1 on the bottom, and as soon as the mixture changed, I would go, okay, the 2 on the left and then 2 in the middle.
Yeah.
It wasn't perfect, but I did notice myself actually forming many descriptions.
Yeah. Okay, that's really interesting. Maybe you were managing it like that. The idea of the experimenters is that when you're switching, if you try to do it by switching attention from one of these to the other as you're going through it, then the idea is that the switch of attention, cycling from here to here to here to here, you can measure how fast people can switch attention backwards and forwards between targets. And the idea of this going so fast is to speed it up to the point that this can't be the basic strategy you're using. So I think the right analysis of what you're describing would be there was some more basic skill keeping track of these targets, and at various points in the task, you were managing it. You pause here and there and say, where are they now? And you keep a kind of log of the interim positions. But it's not by continually updating the log that you're keeping track of them. Do you see what I mean? It's not by continuously saying, now it's here, now it's a bit to the right, a bit to the right, a bit. Yeah. Your fundamental skill was to keep track of them without the descriptions, and then you were recovering descriptions at various points en route. But that depends on the more basic skill. It's not what explains how you have the more basic skill. Does that sound okay? Okay, so this looks like a real-world skill that we have, where you can in a laboratory show that people are not doing this by framing descriptions of the objects they're keeping track of. So this was the kind of thing we were looking for when talking about Russell, some way of identifying objects that does not involve having modes of presentation or descriptive identifications of the objects. This is Polishyn explaining exactly what he thinks is going on. So this is a machine that models the visual system. Okay, now, okay, follow me very closely. The idea is, this is the basic inputs into your visual system. Low-level visual processing early in the brain. So all this stuff, all this stuff, your retina's being hit by millions and millions of impacts simultaneously, and then it's all being processed, so you figure out where the colours are, where the shapes are, where things are moving, and so on. And up here, upstream in the visual system, you have 4 or 5 tags, just 4 or 5 tags. And for one reason or another, some of the objects, information about which is being processed down here, attract tags. And once an object in front of you has attracted a tag, is hooked up to one button or another here. Right? A bulb will light when the button has attracted a tag. Okay? Is that all right? See, this is your basic ways of identifying objects. Now you do this without knowing any of the properties of the object. And now if you want to ask, so if you want to ask of one of your targets as you were going through that demonstration, is it square? What color is it? What you do is you have all these property detectors here. Suppose this might be, let's say, an is it square detector. And if you want to know whether one of the things you're keeping tabs on is square, has it changed shape? Has it become a diamond in the course of this trial? Then what you do is you push this button here for the thing you're trying to keep tabs on, and you push the is it square detector simultaneously. As Position wisely says, you need 2 hands to operate this machine. So you push the button of the tag you're inquiring about, for the object you're inquiring about, and you push your square detector. And if it's not square, the button does not light, the lamp there does not light up. But if it is square, can you guess what happens? I can see you're on the edge of your seat. The lamp goes on, right? So the point here is you've tagged all these objects in advance of knowing any of the properties. If you want to find out any of the properties, that comes later. And in fact, when people are doing this kind of task, there are variants of this task where all the targets change shape or color. They may become animals. They can do really startling things. They may change from being one kind of animal to being another, change color quite dramatically in the course of the trial. And people just don't notice. You just can't tell. So that just rams home the point that this way of tagging all the objects is more primitive than getting any of their properties. So it's more primitive than any descriptive identification of the object, more primitive than any kind of sense or mode of presentation of the object. It's a simple tag, a simple, what Russell would have called a logically proper name, a proper name, just a simple tag for an object going on there in your visual system. When you say, here's Justin, what you're doing is having Justin attract a tag like that, and then you're giving that the verbal name, Justin. Okay? And if you want to know about any of Justin's properties, that comes next. That's when you hit the buttons here. Is that perfectly clear how the mechanism is meant to work? That is meant to be just a description of ordinary vision. So the picture is you've got about 5 of these visual indexes in your brain, in the visual system. Each of them can be assigned to a particular object in your visual field. That's tagging the object. And as Position puts it, that's giving you a way to name or refer to individual parts of a scene, independent of their properties or locations. I don't know if you know if this really helps, this diagram, but it's actually a very Fodorian picture of this. Here is your eye, here is your brain. In the visual system, in the brain, you're constructing representations of complicated objects around you and the relations between them. So if I'm looking at the configuration of the class right now, I'm looking at who's configured where, then you're looking at these relations between the parts, and each person out there is attracting an individual tag, and then you're looking at that configuration. If you are, for example, a policeman looking at a demonstration and wondering what is going to happen next, then that's a kind of, what you're doing is tagging as many blocks as you can, and looking at your visual system is doing analysis of the relation between them. One way to think of this is that it's giving you, is making explicit what's going on when you attend to something in a scene. So in vision, on the one hand, there's a whole teeming stream of consciousness coming in, or this multitudinous detail coming in, and then on the other hand, there are just the parts of the scene you're attending to. And attending to a part of the scene is maybe just the same thing as having it attract one of these indexes. Yeah. These are just aspects. These are tags in the representation. These would be visual indexes. Yeah. Yeah. These are the objects you're identifying. Okay. Now, this is actually a very fertile idea. This idea of positions. This has lots of applications. I think its most important is the kind of theory of reference application. But it's a familiar point that if let's see, I don't have any examples here, but if you hold up, if you're looking at a group of objects and say there are 3 or 4 there, you can look at a bunch of objects, and if there are 3 there or if there are 4 there, can you tell at a glance whether it's 3 or 4? Yes, you can tell at a glance whether there are 3 objects there or 4 objects there. If there are 18 or 19 objects there, can you tell at a glance whether it's 18 or 19? In my case, anyway, you can't, right? And most people can't do that, right? If it's 18 or 19, you have to go 1, 2, 3, 4. You have to do a count, right? So why is that? How come you can do 3, 4, or 5 objects at a glance, but 18 or 19, the thing just packs up on you? There must be some explanation of why that is. Is it that when you do the 3 or 4 at a glance, you're just counting very fast? Well, this is called subitizing. This is doing it at a glance, when you see the number at a glance. And the idea is, it's because you have those 4 tags. You can tag 1, 2, 3, 4, and throw your tags and keep track of your tagging operations. That's why you can do up to 3 or 4 or 5, because that's how many tags, visual indexes you have. That's how many tags you have in your visual system. Beyond that, when you're doing the count, you have to do a manual count. You can't just rely on your tags to do the count for you. There are these stories about little-known tribes that can only count up to 3, right? I mean, maybe they're not as popular as they used to be, but these tribes that do 1, 2, 3, 4, and then after that it's just a lot. I don't think that's ever been demonstrated that these people actually exist, but small children certainly go through a phase that's like that, where they can do 1, 2, 3, up to 3 or 4, and then after that they just pack up. They don't really get the number words beyond 3 or 4. So why is that? Why should there be that stage in your learning of number words? Why should it